You know, people, to be frank, I'm still in a Mortal Kombat kind of mood. We've got the new game on the way, we've got leaked characters, an imminent gameplay reveal on the way, all kinds of shit. But I'm not gonna talk about any of that, because I've spoken about most of that already, and the gameplay part actually isn't here yet. But the main reason I'm not gonna talk about that stuff right now, or theorize or speculate, is because that's not what's on my spirit. That's not what's calling to me. What's actually sitting on my spirit right now is a Mortal Kombat topic that's actually been a thing for a solid decade now, and that is Mortal Kombat's current relationship with the FGC. So I'm gonna go ahead and dig into this because it's something that no one ever brings up, but it really feels like someone should. So why not me? So please remember to like the video if you enjoy, and if you want me to really love you, then go ahead and subscribe. But regardless, I'm about to talk about MK and the FGC. A lot of acronyms. Alright, let's do it. Now, it's been a while since I've had any long-winded FGC talk on this channel, and that's because after my DNF Duel video last year, I really don't consider myself part of the FGC anymore, even though I obviously do enjoy fighting games. But the FGC is a tightly knit niche little community, and they'd have it no other way. And so unlike the majority of that community, I do not enjoy supporting any and every fighting game. I do not enjoy supporting games that are a representation and promotion for the stagnation of the fighting game genre. The fighting games that have my full support are content-rich, modern-feeling evolutions of the genre, which is why I'm loving the look of things like Street Fighter 6, and perhaps subconsciously why in 2011 a little game referred to as Mortal Kombat 9 got its hooks into me. And the years that MK9 was the latest Mortal Kombat game, and actually when Injustice came out, those years are where our MK FGC story starts. Because you know what MK9 did? If you weren't there or you aren't privy, I'll tell you. What MK9 did for and to fighting games was change everything. Insert Drake album, because after MK9, nothing was the same. And it just couldn't be. Mortal Kombat 9 gave you a bang for your buck never before seen in a fighting game at that point. It was so stuffed with content and reasons to play. And on top of that, it was dripping in quality, not only visually, but mechanically. The execution of this game was pristine enough that soon after, everyone else would have to play catch up, because MK9 just fucked up the fighting game racket for everybody. The other heavyweight fighting games like Street Fighter and Tekken, they knew that now they'd have to eventually come with something at least comparable to what NetherRealm was doing. Otherwise, they would slowly but surely lose their heavyweight status. And this only got hammered home more with Injustice and MKX and Injustice 2 and MK11. And if those games didn't exist, I promise you, we wouldn't be getting the Street Fighter 6 that we're getting right now. With World Tour mode and Extreme Battle and all that shit, that doesn't happen if MK9 and X and Injustice and all of that don't make Street Fighter 5 look like an empty piece of shit. I truly believe that people would have been happy with the barren-ass launch version of Street Fighter 5 if MK9 and MKX never existed. The things I'm saying about the quality of MK9 that only got carried over and expanded in MKX, and what I'm saying about what those games did for how fighting games were perceived, these things are true. This is what happened. But if you're an FGC fan and you love yourself some King of Fighters and Street Fighter and Guilty Gear and whatever the fuck else, you wouldn't gather that anything I said about Mortal Kombat was even remotely true. And this is because the bulk of the FGC refuses to acknowledge Mortal Kombat. Or more accurately, they refuse to acknowledge its contributions. They refuse to acknowledge its quality, and dare I say in some cases, obvious superiority. Because, like I said, the FGC is a tightly knit, niche little community, and they'd have it no other way. And what's as far away from a niche franchise as you could possibly get? Mortal Kombat is. I'd even go as far as to say that in terms of its popularity, Mortal Kombat is a basic bitch game. And I know that sounds bad, but what I mean is, you don't hear somebody say they play Mortal Kombat and you think, oh, this guy's a real gamer, he must just love video games, because he probably doesn't. People who would never touch a single other fighting game in their whole life play Mortal Kombat. It has basic bitch popularity, like Call of Duty and Madden and NBA 2K and FIFA and GTA, you know, the basic bitch games. We all know them. MK is one of them. And being a basic bitch game doesn't mean that your game isn't great. It's more of a reference just to your popularity. Other games would kill to be basic bitch games. But anyway, it is because of Mortal Kombat's basic bitchery, it is because it is too popular for the FGC to gatekeep it or feel superior about, that they attempt to diminish it, or at least ignore it where they can. It is a massive franchise, and sometimes you can't get away with not saying anything about it. I call it GOAT syndrome. It's a phenomenon that happens when something is so obviously the front runner, when something is obviously the biggest or the best in its field, that the most dedicated fans of that field will often try to downplay the popular thing and will choose to champion damn near anything else. Examples that I like to point out for GOAT syndrome are LeBron James and McDonald's. Like, sure, LeBron James has the best overall stats and accolades and holds a bunch of NBA records that would suggest he's probably the best basketball player ever, but nah, I'll choose to say he's not even top 10. And hey, look at McDonald's, just generating billions of dollars. There's one on every goddamn corner of every goddamn street in every goddamn country in the fucking world, but nah, everyone claims it's nasty and they don't eat that shit. Well, somebody's fucking lying, guys, because they are entirely too successful. But you see, GOAT syndrome isn't always about being a contrarian, like in the case of Mortal Kombat, where the method of disrespect is simply refusal of acknowledgement. And specifically in this case, with this pertaining to gaming and niche gaming at that, the FGC simply doesn't like the lack of available gatekeeping when it comes to MK. To get specific, let's talk about the gameplay of Mortal Kombat, because the FGC knows it's idiotic to try to badmouth the visuals or the content of Mortal Kombat, because those things are objectively superb, and you'd sound like a fucking idiot criticizing MK11's visuals or content and then heading back to Street Fighter V, you know? So they don't do that. Instead, they try to convince you that the gameplay is bad or subpar or simply not up to snuff with the quote-unquote real deal fighting games like KOF and Street Fighter. Cool, what they mean to say is, Mortal Kombat doesn't have aggressively precise timing when it comes to button inputs, and so the one legacy skill you honed from Street Fighter Alpha or whatever doesn't apply to this game, and so you no longer have an advantage over most people who would have a hard time getting acclimated to the strict timing of Street Fighter combos. And that's really the truth. Mortal Kombat, to a degree, is more accessible, and the rough and tumble niche FGC boys don't like that. Let me explain how Mortal Kombat and NetherRealm games work a bit. There's sort of an input window, which is about a second long, where if you press a button, even while your character is in the middle of an animation, the game registers that you pressed that next button, and so when the current animation ends, the next animation of the button you pressed will start because the game already banked that you pressed that button. For example, let's say my character has a combo where I press XXO for a quick kick punch. Well, even if I press XXO as fast as I fucking can before the character even gets a chance to move, it won't matter because the game understands that I pressed that, and so my character will do the entire kick punch. In other games, like Street Fighter, you would have to press X, wait for the kick animation, and then you'd have a brief window to input the next button, which in our hypothetical is X again. And then, when the second animation went off, you then have another brief moment to press circle. So you would press the buttons more like X, X, O. And any deviation from that timing would result in you dropping the combo. Whereas in Mortal Kombat, you can press XXO or XXO or XXO. The point is, whatever tempo, whatever cadence, as long as you press the button somewhere, anywhere within the window of the animation, the game understands that you pressed that. But in Street Fighter, you have to press it at the end of the animation, right on the fucking money. And listen, the thing is, all fighting games have this window that I'm talking about with Mortal Kombat, but in other games, it's often a lot smaller. It's less of a window and more of a glory hole. And don't get me started on King of Fighters. Those games are almost laughably precise. But yes, this tiny accessibility detail that NetherRealm uses in its games that doesn't affect its high-ass skill ceiling is part of the reason that you've probably seen FGC purists big up Skullgirls or something before Mortal Kombat. And I think the FGC feels like if they acknowledge how obviously outstanding NetherRealm and Mortal Kombat are, then that somehow means they're diminishing their favorite fighting game or something, when that's just not the case. Let me tell you something. I fucking love Street Fighter. I love the games. I love how they play. I love the lore. I love the characters. Street Fighter has some of the best fucking character designs in anything ever, and I love it to death. And I'm probably more passionate about the Street Fighter characters and world than I am about the MK characters. But I think NetherRealm makes the greatest fighting games around. Easily. They just do. And hopefully that continues with Mortal Kombat 1. But the point of me saying any of this isn't because you have to agree that NetherRealm makes the best games or anything like that. If you think Tekken or Street Fighter or hell even Guilty Gear is better, you can go ahead and think that that's completely valid. But to act as though Mortal Kombat is so much less than, when if anything, it's probably the complete opposite, is just insane, and it needs to stop. I can't be the only one that's noticed that the FGC does not talk about Mortal Kombat, and when they do, it's with the most passive-aggressive tone and a reluctance to say anything too complimentary. It's so fucking weird to me. Outside of people who specifically specialize in Mortal Kombat content creation, the majority of the FGC seems to do a lot to ignore or invalidate Mortal Kombat. And to no avail, I might add. And I just feel like this stuff just needed to be said and called out, if for no other reason than it's just weird hater behavior. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm making things up, and the FGC shows all the respect in the world to Mortal Kombat, but it doesn't look or feel that way to me. And listen, I know Mortal Kombat is incredibly popular in no small part thanks to its amazing graphics and over-the-top blood and gore. I'm not a fucking idiot, but that just gets people in the door. For people to stick around and come back like they have, there has to be substance and execution, and I think as of right now, no other fighting game developer does substance and execution as well as NetherRealm. But this video is before Street Fighter 6 has released, so who knows? But yeah, man, I've wanted to make this video for a long time. I guess I was just doing other shit, or it didn't seem that topical at the time. I could have done it at any point, but I guess the motivation is finally here, huh? Anyway, I guess that's the end of my rant. Feel free to tell me what you think. Be sure to drop a comment telling me why them's fighting herds is better than MK. That would be very FGC of you. But yeah, drop a like if you enjoyed. Feel free to subscribe. But until next time, I am Waifu Belector. I am just a normal guy. I like hentai and I like fighting games, but I am not part of the FGC. Goodbye.